Hey folks, it is finally time to plant our potatoes for the spring season, and I am so excited. Potatoes are a huge staple food in this household, and I am growing more this year than I ever have before. But first, I had to amend the in-ground garden rows to actually accommodate living plants. So I used some compost, homemade compost that I had done over the winter. So I started by sifting out this compost because it's not 100% ready. And then I took that sifted compost and just top dressed my garden rows with it. I have already amended the rows with 2 different kinds of compost earlier in the season when I actually initially made them, and I can link those 2 videos down for you below. I also had to remove some broccoli plants that have been overwintered in the raised rows. They have given me several offshoots of broccoli this spring, and I could not be happier about that. I am pleasantly surprised with the varieties that I had planted in my garden this year. Definitely gonna do them again, especially since they overwintered all season for me and gave me production in the spring. But it is time for them to come out. The way I decided to solve my windy site problem for now is with wood chips. I didn't have a chance this week to go and gather fallen pine needles, so to keep the straw mulch on these freshly planted rows, I'm just gonna be applying a generous layer of wood chips over the top. This will just have to work until I can get some thicker or heavier mulching materials so that all my straw doesn't blow away. And after adding the layer of wood chips on the straw, I gave everything a good spray down with the hose and we were ready to go. So these are the dark red Norlands, and they have scabbed over quite nicely. If you see here, it almost looks like mold, but it's hard. And I've even got some sprouts coming up, so that is exciting. These potatoes are the Corollas, as well as, I believe, oh no, these are just the Corollas and some kitchen potatoes I had. So we're gonna get these over to the beds and start planting. So I'm sitting here in my raised row garden beds. Now my soil is predominantly sandy. I have almost no topsoil, and it's just very poor quality soil. So what I have done is I have amended these in-ground garden beds with mushroom substrate compost, homegrown compost from my own chickens, and horse manure compost that I sourced from a local nursery. So my in-ground garden rows are about 35 feet long, and I have 4 of them. Half of them have already been here for 1 year. So they've had plants in it both during the summer and fall and winter seasons of last year. So this soil is a lot better than the soil at the end of the rows. I'm gonna plant my potatoes in the older part of my in-ground garden beds. Now potatoes are pretty heavy feeders, which just means that they require nutrients throughout their growing cycle, and especially if you have nutrient poor soil, you're going to want to add some sort of fertilizer or amendment to your potato soil several times throughout the gardening season, up until about a month before you're going to harvest potatoes. So what I'm going to be adding after we plant these potatoes, just as an overlayer on top of the soil, is this Garden Tone herb and vegetable food that I just picked up at my local big box store. It is organic. I've never used it before, but I've heard many good things about the Espoma brand. So I'm just going to top dress my beds with this, and then as the season goes on, I will also be adding more fertilizer, different kinds of fertilizer, and possibly even more compost if I can make enough in that time. The good thing about this Garden Tone slow release fertilizer is that it's just going to release its nutrients at a slower rate than if I use liquid fertilizer. And I really don't want to be inundating these little baby sprouts when they come up with huge amounts of fertilizer, which might hurt them. Now the recommended planting depth of potatoes is between, you can read, from anywhere between 2 to 8 feet deep beneath the soil. That is also going to largely depend on the type of soil you have. If you have really heavy clay soil that you can't really dig into, and it's going to be hard for that sprout to come up through the soil, obviously you don't want to plant it too deep that the sprout can't even make it through. But secondly, it's also going to depend on how cold your area gets. So here in zone 8A, I live in southwest New Mexico in the desert, and we rarely, if ever, get our ground to freeze. So what I'm going to be doing is moving this mulch out of the way and then digging a hole about 4 inches deep. A nice even middle between 2 inches and 4 inches. And what you're gonna wanna do is plant this potato that you've chitted and plant it sprout side up. So this little green sprout right here, it's gonna come up so that when this potato gets big enough, it doesn't have to work to dig its sprout down and up, around and up. And we're gonna cover it up and cover up again with our gracious layer of mulch just to help protect it from those cold temperatures. Now you can plant potatoes farther apart if you'd like. If you have really good soil, then you can plant them closer together because they're not going to be fighting for nutrients. I obviously don't have really good soil, but I also don't have a whole ton of planting space to devote to all the potatoes that I have. So I'm gonna put them about a foot apart. They will be absolutely fine. The main issue that you want to avoid is planting them too close together and then them not having enough nutrients, and then also not having enough space to fill out. So if you're growing a really large, like a russet potato, you want to keep those a little bit farther apart so that they can get to a really large size. Hi Grady. You here to help me plant potatoes? Yeah?
Are these potatoes that you messed up on?
No, so I took a big potato and I cut it into a lot of little smaller ones. And see, they got sprouts.
What are sprouts?
They're these guys. They're a little plant that you're gonna see pop out of the ground, kind of like that. One day when they grow up. Right now they're still little babies. So we make our little holes where they're gonna be. And then we're gonna dig it down about the size of my hand. You wanna put it in there?
Do I put this one inside?
Yeah. Is there a sprout? See that little sprout?
Yeah.
We're gonna put that facing up towards the sky, okay?
Okay.
So make sure the green thing's facing towards the sky, is it? Yep, it is. It's right there. Perfect. Cover it up with dirt. Boom. And then we're done. How easy was that?
Ooh, look at these sprouts.
Another one. Hold on. We gotta dig a really big hole first. In there. Alright, now put him in. Make sure his eyes facing the sky. Eyes facing the sky. Alright, you want to get me a potato and put him in there? Eyes towards the sky. You want to cover him up? Like that. We'll leave the dirt, we'll leave the straw out of the way and just leave a dirt hole like that. Another one.
Wait, I want to do this.
Okay. Well, we're gonna scrape this away first gently and then we dig the hole.
Wait, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
20. Good job, dude. That's alright, we're gonna plant all these rows with potatoes. You got one for me?
Let me see.
Pick the best one you like.
This one's gonna go a lot too.
So I ended up leaving the holes uncovered all along this road just so I could remember where they're at and put the fertilizer on them afterwards. So let's do that real quick and I'll just show you what I'm doing. It's super easy, super obvious.
I think she spelled M instead of the V.
Oh. I don't know.
She was trying to spell Vicky's channel.
Oh. Does she have a channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does.
Wait. How about you put the tomatoes in and I put...
No. If it seems that easy, folks, it's because it is. You just put potatoes in the ground and then they grow. Another thing you want to be sure of when you're planting potatoes is that you have nice, loose, well-draining soil. So if you have super, super high clay soils, you definitely want to mend with something that's going to loosen it up, like sand if you can, or some other medium, because potatoes need a fluffy, light soil to be able to expand their tubers and grow. If you put them in really soppy, poor draining, and tight soil, they're just going to be really tiny tubers. Now that's partially why I till here, is to break up my compacted sandy soil on this top layer that I have, and that's also why I do raised rows. So although I have really sandy soil, it does tend to be compacted because it's so dry here. And just having raised rows, although it does take more time, effort, and soil to make it this way, it gives me more of a depth. So I till about a foot down underneath the soil, and then I also have about a foot above the level of the soil surface to grow with. So that gives me about 2 feet of loose, partially amended growing medium to use. You can absolutely do this in raised beds. You can do this in pots. Granted, you can't fit as many potato plants, but you can absolutely grow potatoes in pots. You can grow potatoes in straw bales, in giant fences filled with straw. There are tons of ways to grow potatoes. This is just one, and I'm just bringing you guys along with me. But they are one of the easiest and most productive crops to grow. And it's a lot of calories. I mean, to be able to take a single potato with multiple sprouts on it and break that up into 5 to 7 plants and then get 5 to 7 potatoes from each plant, it's just an amazing, amazing staple crop to have if you're looking for calories, nutrient-dense food, and a lot of food produced in a small growing area. All right, so most of the potatoes are done, but I've still got, quite a few. We got probably about 25, I think I counted. And I really don't want to extend too far down these beds because I have other plans. So I'm not sure I'm gonna plant these potatoes today until I figure out where else I could put them. I might also try doing like a mulch tomato tower, which if you guys haven't, I'll try and find a picture online and put it right here, but I don't know if I'll be able to find one. But I might try and do one of those because I thought they looked really interesting. But as for now, today, I'm done planting. It's lunchtime. So just real quick, the way that I'm gonna be watering this is I'm gonna have a sprinkler system just go over this whole area because I do have pretty hydrophobic soil. It is largely desert sand, and this area hasn't really been watered in a long time because it's been winter and nothing was growing there. We don't get a whole lot of rain, and I'm not going to waste water on beds that aren't growing anything. I'm very aware that soil needs moisture to keep the microbes alive. It's just not feasible at this point in my life in our location. So I'm just going to run a sprinkler over here probably every day for the next few days until the soil gets pretty moist deep down. And then I'll feel fairly confident that the potatoes that we just planted got moisture. But it looks like the wind's picking up, so I finished this just in time. Before the wind starts. But I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you guys for joining me on this potato planting adventure. I'm very excited this year. Oh, just for posterity reasons. So I remember this first row and part of this second row are Corolla potatoes, which are the long storage, hopefully storage variety of potatoes. They're the late season potatoes. And then the other 2 rows are full of the dark red New Orleans. Both potato varieties I got from Keen Garlic, which I will link down below. I'll also link my the video I did a couple days ago about how to prepare seed potatoes for planting. It's definitely a starter to this video. And you absolutely do not need to order seed potatoes online. It's a good practice if you can afford it, if you find a company that you like, but you can definitely get them at big box stores. I know Tractor Supply, I'm not sure about Home Depot or Lowe's if you're in the US, but I know Tractor Supply has seed potatoes available every year. In fact, 2 of the most prominent ones they sell are Yukon Gold and Adirondack Blue. And I have purchased seed potatoes from Tractor Supply before. They didn't turn out great, but they did produce potatoes. And I think it was like the end of their sale season and they were on sale. So I got a ton of potatoes for super cheap. Or you guys can just buy potatoes from the store, cut them up, and plant them. It works either way. It does not have to be fancy, and it is super easy. This is a great source of food that's very easy to grow in your garden. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten breakfast. Catch you guys on the next one.